So, for this episode, I'm just going to ramble a little about some films that I've seen recently. Nothing too fancy. So, on my phone here, I have a list of all the movies that I've seen this year. So, I'm just going to go through a few of the more recent ones and talk a little bit about them. So, the most recent film that I've seen is Yojimbo. This movie is directed by Akira Kurosawa, who some of you may know as the legendary Japanese filmmaker. So, this movie is about a drifter samurai who comes to a town where two rival gangs are in conflict with each other. And I think a big part of this film was that it was past the idea of samurai being noble characters, because this samurai decides that he wants to spur the conflict on almost for his own entertainment. So it's pretty interesting in that way. One sort of trope that came from this film that was heavily used by Sergio Leone for the Dollars trilogy, specifically the movie For a Few Dollars More, was the idea of the drifter, badass, no-name character, which most of you are probably thinking Clint Eastwood right now, because that's what Yojimbo heavily inspired. In fact, I believe there was a lawsuit that Akira Kurosawa sued Sergio Leone because he felt that For a Few Dollars More was too similar. Sorry, A Fistful of Dollars. For a Few Dollars More was the second of the Dollars trilogy, and that was not related to Yojimbo. So, hopefully before anyone posted an angry comment, they actually waited until the end of this video. I'm sorry, it's A Fistful of Dollars. But, to be fair, those and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly all have the Clint Eastwood character being the no-name, stoic, ultimate badass. So, I wasn't too far off. They have similar titles, okay? Don't hate on me. They're similar. So, I would heavily recommend Yojimbo. I thought it was a very well-made and well-directed film, and Akira Kurosawa definitely knows how to direct a scene. The samurai fight scenes in the film are fantastic. There's a lot of suspense and very good character dynamic. So, I personally would give Yojimbo a 8 out of 10. Let's see, what else have I watched recently? I can talk about another Japanese film that I watched recently called Harakiri. I don't remember off the top of my head who directed this movie. It was not Akira Kurosawa, but in my opinion, this might be the best movie that he never made. So, Harakiri is basically the same thing as seppuku, the Japanese ritualistic suicide. But Harakiri is the more slang term for it, the more informal use. So, the plot of Harakiri is that a older samurai goes to a temple and asks the samurai of the temple if he may perform a Harakiri ritual there. But his story as to why he wants to perform the ritual is very similar to another story they heard. So as he is about to commit the ritual, a whole layer of plot twists and threads are unraveled as to about his true nature and the relations to events that have priorly happened. I don't want to say much more than that because that would sort of spoil the surprise intensity of the film. But needless to say, this one is very well made. Of the two samurai films that I've watched recently, I probably would prefer Harakiri. I was absolutely hooked into this movie from the moment the sort of story was set up and the plot kicked in, which wasn't too far into the movie as well. It's very intense. It's also very violent. There is, without spoiling anything, there is a one-on-one duel near the end of the film, which takes place in a very beautiful setting. It is very well filmed. I have not watched a lot of live-action Japanese films before, but this was the one that definitely got me interested. That's Harakiri. And I believe that was released around the same time as Yojimbo. Both of them were in the early 60s. So, I personally would give Harakiri a 9 out of 10. It was very fantastic, and I will definitely watch that one again. And I highly recommend that to anyone who enjoys Akira Kurosawa films and wants to branch out to a different director with a different style. So, another movie I watched recently was WarGames. This is sort of, I guess, a cult classic from the 1980s, starring Matthew Broderick, who you may know as Ferris Bueller from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And WarGames takes place during the 1980s Cold War nuclear threat scare between the United States and the Soviet Union. So, in this film's timeline, there is a supercomputer that is running simulations on how America should best handle a potential nuclear war with the Soviet Union. And Matthew Broderick's character, whose name escapes me at the moment, when I'm on camera, I just seem to forget these things, and I mention them later. So, don't blame me. Blame the fact that I'm very on the spot. So, Matthew Broderick's character is a computer hacker, and while trying to hack into a video game company, he indirectly hacks into the supercomputer that the military has. And when he tries to play a game with it of global thermonuclear war, he doesn't realize that the computer is actually running the simulation, causing the Americans in the war room to think that the actions going on are really occurring in the world. And since everyone is too paranoid to believe that nothing's happening, this causes an escalation to start building up towards potential nuclear war. As far as sort of 80s films go, this one I think has a lot more style and substance to it than most. This isn't just like a fun teen movie that you could just throw on necessarily. I mean, you could, but you can still watch it as a legitimately well-made film. And I really liked the way the movie was shot. The set design of the war room is very fantastic, and I really liked the way it all came together because it made for a very intense finale. And, of course, the lines spoken by the computer through the voice box are very classic. For those of you who have seen Captain America: The Winter Soldier, you may know that referenced WarGames, because in the scene where Captain America and Black Widow go into the secret computer base, as she is activating it, she says, "Shall we play a game?" And that is a reference to WarGames. I mistakenly attributed it to Saw because I had not seen WarGames at the time. And CinemaSins, a fantastic YouTube channel, pointed this out by joking that Steve had not seen a bunch of classic films, but he had seen WarGames, which is a great movie, but it is not necessarily as classic as something like Star Wars or Star Trek. So, if you want a good sort of, 80s movie of that time that's a little bit more mature than the average 80s kids film, then I would recommend WarGames. I would give that one a 7 out of 10. It is a good movie. But, it's not my favorite or anything. But it's good. I do recommend it. So, I think I'll talk about maybe one more film. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'll talk about this one. So, the other most recent film that I've seen is called Possession. That is Possession. So, this is from 1981, and it was made by a foreign director. It is set in Germany, but some of the actors are English or American. It stars Sam Neill in the main role, who is the Jurassic Park guy. Not Jeff Goldblum, the other one, Dr. Alan Grant. And I call him the Jurassic Park guy because most people know him as that guy from Jurassic Park. I saw the Honest trailer. For those of you who've seen the Honest trailer, you know what I'm talking about. So, Possession is a horror, psychological thriller, suspense film, whichever one of those categories you want to put it in. The main plot is that Sam Neill's character, whose name also escapes me at the moment, has come to visit his wife and son who are living in Germany. This is during the time when it was still split into East and West. And as he tries to sort of realign things, he admits to his wife that he has been cheating on her. She also admits that she was cheating on him. So for the first half of the film, it's an analysis of their relationship slowly becoming self-destructive and affecting the people around them. And then in the second half, things start to get a little weird. Now, I don't want to spoil it because I really love this movie, as I will talk about in a bit. So, there is a certain film that it ends up becoming similar to, but I won't say what that film is because that would necessitate a very mild, slight spoiler. And for those of you that haven't seen Possession and you want to watch a very scary, creepy movie, go out and watch it right away. But seeing as the whole point is that you want to, go to sleep, I wouldn't recommend watching that one before bed because I did have nightmares about it, even at my age I am now. But needless to say, the movie does end up getting quite disturbing in the end because both sides almost want to sort of force the other to become their idealized self. So I think overall the main theme of the movie is that how in destructive relationships we try to force our idea of a normalized person on the other, and that is why it becomes destructive. So it's a very heavy message and a very sad one indeed. And honestly, if the film had just stayed focusing on the destructive relationship, I think that would have been perfect as it is. But with the way it went, it became very genuinely terrified, and there is one shot in particular in an apartment that there's no jump scare music or anything like that, but I was absolutely terrified. So, it may not be relaxing to talk about, but I'm also doing this for the purpose of reviewing films, so you guys should go watch it. So, I would probably give Possession a 10 out of 10. Now, the only thing is that I've only seen it once. It was recent, and I did really love it. So, I may be slightly overrating it. Maybe it is closer to a 9. that's all semantics. It's only more for organizational purposes, but I think the reason why I might consider Possession to be a 10 is that I don't think that the movie would have improved from any changes. I think that was the best it could possibly be. As a horror or thriller movie, I was genuinely terrified. I was completely on the edge of my seat the whole time. And some of the effects or cinematography or sound design was just absolutely incredibly effective at creating this environment and conveying the atmosphere. And the two leads in the film, they did such a great job of portraying that couple. And just some of the scenes are very hard to watch, but that is the way that the film is. So, once again, those films that I've talked about are Yojimbo, which I would give an 8 out of 10, Harakiri, which I would give a 9 out of 10, WarGames, 7 out of 10, and Possession, 10 out of 10. Keep in mind that those are my completely subjective ratings. I am not trying to say an objective measure of the film. That is completely 100% absolutely biased opinion. And I wouldn't even necessarily go by those ratings that much. It's more of just an organizational thing. I can say that a 7 out of 10 is a very, very good movie, but then I can say a 10 out of 10 is something that I find, absolutely blew me away. And 8s and 9s range from that way. I also do have a tendency to only watch movies I think will be good, so I probably won't review too many negative films, hopefully. And I think that's a good thing to talk about for now. So, thank you for listening into this episode of the ASMR Review Show. And just close up my phone there. Thank you for tuning in for this episode, and I hope you guys have a good night. And I'll see you next time.